Good. Hello, class. I'm here to present my topic on global poverty. So, in my introduction starts with there are three types of poverty, namely extreme poverty, um, moderate poverty, relative poverty. Poverty was discovered on a global scale after the Second World War before 1940. Poverty was not an issue then. In one of the first bank reports dating from 1948 to 1949, the nature of the problem was outlined. Both a single set of statistics plainly reveal both the need and potential for development according to the United Nations Bureau of Statistics. The average income per head in the United States in 1947 was over 1400, and in another 14 countries range between 400 to $900. However, more than half of the world's population average income was less and sometimes much less than $100 per head per person. The magnitude of these discrepancies demonstrates not only the urgent need to raise living standard in the underdeveloped countries, but to also the enormous possibilities to do that as soon as possible. Whenever mentioned poverty at all in the documents in the 1940s and 1950s, it took the form of statistical measurement of per capita income, whose significance rested on the fact that it lay ridiculously far below the US standard. Poverty is much more than a lack of income and productive resources to ensure sustainable livelihoods. Its manifestations include hunger and malnutrition, limited discrimination and exclusion, the lack of participation in decision making. In 2015, more than 736 million people in lived below the international poverty line. United Nations facts and figures mention that even before COVID-19, baseline projections suggested that 6% of the global population would still live in poverty in 2030, missing the target of ending poverty campaign. Subsistence farming produces in small quantities that are not enough to sell and generate income. Those with this type of farming cannot afford adequate healthcare, education, or better technology to increase food production, which in turn would be sold or export for proceeds that will help fund their children's education or pay hospital bills, hence they continue to remain in poverty. Subsistence farming is mostly practiced in countries like sub-Saharan Africa, Southeast Asia, and Latin America. Before the pandemic, poverty rate was cut down by more than half since 2000. The pandemic could increase global poverty as much as half a billion people, or 8% of the total human population. Sorry. COVID-19 has threatened to reverse decades or progress in the fight against global poverty and income inequalities, and it jeopardizes the future of the next generation. Hopefully, we will get out of it completely as soon as possible. In developing countries like the United states. Poverty can be reduced or eradicated by engaging citizens in jobs that are not too strenuous for those claiming to be on disability, even when they are not. Increasing minimum pay is something that will help to control poverty eradication. Also, making it mandatory but encouraging them to use their time in trading or crafting incentives and recognition should be given to um, states and community leaders globally. This will enhance achieving the goal of engaging and eliminating poverty and negative mindsets gradually. The third world countries should create more manufacturing companies such as paper making companies which will replace plastics and engage them with local cells and a plastic eliminating mindset. There should be options like flexibility on what citizens can do, something they like doing, so that they can be more engaged. The third world countries should also make schools free and mandatory. They should engage foreign partners to ensure every household with kids in communities are in the school or learning some trade, craft, technical activities if they cannot continue schooling. Corruption and stealing from the government should be taught in school that it is not acceptable. So, when the source of stolen money is not there, everyone benefiting from those corrupt and um, stolen funds will become very poor, sick, depressed, and becomes problem to their community, society, and globally. There is a quote that said, "It is better to teach someone how to fish than to provide the fish to the person at all times." So this also has to be taught to the children in school so they will understand. In Zambia, most of the population relies on subsistence farming to survive. There are few irrigation systems, so most farmers rely on seasonal rains. Droughts in the 1980s and 1990s reduced production, and that resulted in famine. India is overpopulated. There is not enough space to grow crops. Its population is over 1 billion and is increasingly rapidly. About 35% lives on less than $1 per day. The number of those living in poverty may increase as population grows. Many of the poorest countries have little or seasonal rainfall, making it difficult to grow crops and rear animals. If it doesn't rain or it rains less than usual, this can lead to flood, shortages, um, or famine. War can also cause poverty because war destroys property, infrastructure, crops. This creates shortages of safe drinking water, shelter, food, sanitation, healthcare, and education. So, flood in Bangladesh in 1998 caused 25 million people to become homeless and lost 2 million tons of rice, clean water, and cholera spread. In conclusion, poverty was discovered on a global scale after the Second World War. Poverty then was not an issue before 1940, but after the Second World War, many organizations have tried to eradicate poverty and then become productive. In 2008, the World Bank re-established the international poverty line as people living on 1.25 a day using 2005 prices for the cost of living. United Nations leader declared second United Nations decade for eradication of poverty from 2008 to 2017. Thank you.